Hi, this is Attila16, and this is a Wargame Red Dragon guide. In this case, this is a guide which will focus on the creation of an American armor deck, and I will explain to you how each unit work, essentially, so why I choose them in this deck, and then I'll show you in a replay how I use them in the battle. So we'll start by presenting the deck, and after that we'll show the battle. So I will explain to you the rationale here, and let's start with the logistic. So this is a deck which is restricted to armored, so this is specialized toward having tank, and as a result you have restriction which eliminate any other troops that might not be in armored deck. So as a result of this, you have a limited choice here in logistic. I'm using an M60 because it's an okay tank in terms of command vehicle. It will be able to survive some artillery hit, and you don't really need to go all the way to Abrams, I think, because Abrams sure will be a good fighting vehicle, but this is a command vehicle, so you want it to be not super expensive, but be able to survive. You will try not to expose it to enemy fire, so that's why having the best tank as a command vehicle might not be the best choice. So the M60 A1 as a command vehicle is okay, but it's kind of expensive. So that's why I'm also bringing some M151A1, so this Jeep right here, which is very light. It is vulnerable to artillery fire, airstrike and everything. Doesn't have a weapon, but this is not expensive. You have 7 of them, so that's probably the one that you'll keep far from the enemy sight. And also you'll put it into unusual position, preferably, in order to avoid being destroyed by enemy artillery. Then in terms of cargo, I'm using 2 group of M35 cargo because you don't have access to anything else, and you will need cargos because your tank do consume a lot of ammo, and they will need to be repaired. Infantry, as you can see here, you don't have much choice, but I guess what I will recommend is probably riflemen's from the 90s with the super Dragon transport. It has a good armor, and the Dragon does offer a 15 AP power capacity, so you'll be able to deploy that and support your troops pretty well. If you want to save on the price, you can always go with the M113A3, which is doesn't have a Dragon. It costs much less, and it can be effective. Still has a good 2 points front armor, so that's something which can be interesting. The riflemen, I use 3 group of them with the Arden veterancy, and the reason for this is that you want them to be numerous, and you want them to be able to fight, but it's clear that your infantry here is definitely not the focus of this deck. Your focus is the tank, so the riflemen only serve you as a recon force, or a force that will engage the enemy infantry in buildings, so you use them for clearing the way and not so much as the striking force. Also, I'm using the Stinger C with veterancy in this case, because this is probably the best anti-air infantry you can have as the American, with an accuracy of 70%. You only have 4 of them, which make them rather vulnerable, but it is still very useful to have these, especially in an urban environment where you can hide them and move them around, and they will be able to cover or destroy any enemy choppers as well as airplanes, but it's mostly a tool against choppers. Then I use LAAD Stingers A, which is not as good, but still pretty good. The main difference being the accuracy. But overall, it's really important to have these infantry anti-air because your tank are mostly vulnerable to choppers. And putting those guys into building is really the key of success here. And of course the 3 group of riflemen. So this is mostly an infantry force which is designed around carefully advancing, not necessarily pushing forward with infantry, but mostly scouting and also providing a pullback position for your tank. Support. Since the choppers are your main enemy, as you can see here, a lot of chaparrals. So I'm using the M48A3 chaparrals. It costs 70 points. It has a very good range against chopper. You can fire at choppers beyond the chopper capacity to fire back at you. You also have 12 infrared missile, which make them very dangerous. And they are also really good against plane, good range. Well, the enemy plane will have the opportunity to drop bombs on you, but you'll be able to probably kill them. And I think this unit is much more reliable than even High Hawk, so that is why I'm using that. I'm also using them with high veterancy, so Arden, because I want them to be as effective as possible. And I don't want to have to bring many of them, so you'll spread them around and you'll be able to get rid of the enemy air unit pretty easily. Also, since this is a unit which is vulnerable to artillery fire and potentially airstrike, you want to keep them safe and spread out, because grouping them might not be a good idea. Also, they have a lot of ammo, 12, that's a lot per units, but this is still a unit you will have to refill the ammo quite a bit, because the enemy can chopper rush you quite hard. I'm also using the less expensive version, which is pretty good nonetheless. You can fire at choppers beyond the chopper capacity to fire back at you. And the accuracy is a little smaller, but this is still a very reliable unit. I'm using some PVADs, which has a radar that make them a good target for the enemy suppression of air defense, enemy air defense planes. But this thing has such a high rate of fire that they are actually really good at killing airplanes and stunning them. So if you just spread them around or move them around, these guys can be very effective. They have a tendency to run out of ammo or fuel, but it's still a reliable unit. Then I'm using the M109A2. So this is an artillery. This is mostly a unit that I'll use as complement to my force. It's not the best, but it's there, which is the important part, and it can suppress the enemy position, assuming you know where the enemy is, and also assuming that sending your tank or infantry to a specific position might be too dangerous. You might want to use artillery to suppress the enemy. Okay, let's move to tank. Now, since this is an armored deck, you gain in experience for your tank that turn your tank into very good killing machine. It will have good precision, faster capacity at targeting the enemy, and faster rate of fire potentially. So that makes your tank very effective. And this is why using the best tank is probably the best idea. So in this case, I'm using the M182 Abram. Now, as you can see here, that one costs 180, and you only have 2 of them. I'm using them at Arden as opposed to Elite, because sure, you can go with Elite, you will only have 1 of them, but the problem is you still have 25 rounds if you go Elite, so per tank. So it's best to have 2 tank, which will allow you to fire at more target. This is also a unit that you'll need to use very carefully, because as soon as people see this, they know it's a big prize, so they will go for it. So you use them very carefully. But this deck focus is all about that tank. This is your killing machine, essentially. I'm using M11P Abrams also at the veteran level of experience. These tanks are really effective also. I don't use them that much because they still cost a lot, and sometimes you don't necessarily need them, but it's a good complement or backup plan, assuming you lose your Abrams, which are much better. Also, they might attract attention because they are named Abrams. So the enemy might target them a little more, but I think this is a proper tank if you face a lot of inexpensive units, or T-72, well, light T-72, let's say. I use the Sheridan. This one is an interesting tank. It doesn't cost much. It has a missile which has a good range. That's the main interest of it. And that missile, he has 7 of it. It's 16 AP power, so it's a good tank. As you can see here, the armor is 2221, so very light armor. This is the kind of tank that you keep in the back. What's interesting about it is that it has a cannon, so unlike a vehicle anti-tank, you'll have the capacity to deal with infantry. And actually the HE power of the cannon is 4, so that makes them very effective at holding a position against anything the enemy throw at you. And as long as you don't get spotted too quickly, it should be able to deal with the enemy tank, especially with the range here. So you put these tanks into very open space where the missile will be advantageous. The M60A1 Rice Pattern. This is a tank which is not that expensive, and I use it with the veteran level of experience, which make them very effective actually. This tank is not amazing in terms of AP power, but what's cool about the M60 is the amount of ammo. So you have 40 rounds right here, and that make them ideal to deal with light APCs and light tank. So because they have a lot of ammo, so they'll be able to fight for a long time. Also with the veterancy, it make them really quick at shooting the enemy, and the armor of it is rather light, but it's able to withstand a good fight. And since they're not that expensive, they're good to open the way. Then I'm using the Super M60, which is a tank which has more armor than the previous one. It also has a better cannon, but I think what's interesting here is really the armor aspect of it. It's able to withstand more damage. So you use the other one to open the way, and you use this one to support it or advance, and ultimately these two M60 are the recon element of your tank force, which is those Abrams over there. I use the M1A1 HA Abram, which is a little less good than the M1A2, but still pretty good nonetheless. This is a unit that I don't really think you'll use, because if you play carefully, you will only rely on those M1A2 at the beginning. So this is your kind of a backup plan in case that your M1A2 are destroyed, and all the rest of the tank dispositive and infantry will complement this as well. But ultimately your goal here is really to rely on those M1A2 at the beginning. This is mostly your backup plan, and they are very expensive also. But still a very good tank here. Okay, here I'm using the Bradley as recon, 2 group of them with ardent experience level. And these tanks are really amazing. Well, APC I should say, or recon vehicle in this case actually. So you can see here the missile range is very high. Similar to a Sheridan, but much better optic, of course. And 12 missile, which make them even better. It's a little more expensive, of course, but this vehicle is really ideal to deploy into a place, an open space, because they'll be able to really snipe the enemy and destroy them very quickly. The AP power is 15, so that's good enough, and it will be able to suppress the enemy light vehicle as well as infantry with the Bushmaster autocannon there. Here I'm using the Kiowa, so it's like a good recon chopper that allows you to be very flexible there. And here I use the Rangers, and I don't really use them that much, but it's useful to have recon infantry sometime. So it's a good complement, and also the Chinook can suppress the enemy infantry as well. Vehicle, I'm using the M91A1 ETWUS. So this is the best vehicle you can have in this deck. If you look at it, the range is really high, and the AP power will kill probably any tank in front of it. So this is a very effective vehicle, but I think if you play well your deck, you probably won't need it. It's just if you have an open space that you want to cover and that you're pretty sure that you'll be attacked by a lot of tanks, that might be a good solution. But it's very likely that in the logic of this deck you'll rely much more on the tank. Now in the armored deck you don't have access to choppers. So let's go with air. So the US have the Nighthawk. It's a really practical plane to destroy a good concentration of enemies. And that range from infantry to medium tank, let's say, you'll be able to kill them in one drop without being spotted, hopefully, because as soon as you're spotted, you're pretty much dead with that thing. So this means that this is a plane that you'll use in area which is not filled with anti-air, especially long-range anti-air like Hawk and actually a Buck and that kind of stuff. So and also if there's a lot of enemy airplanes, probably not a good idea to use this one. Then I use the Hardvark, which has a lot of bombs, traditional bombs here. And so this is this version right here. So this unit is not super expensive as a plane, does have a good payload, and you can afford to lose it in some cases. It's pretty good against infantry attack or anything of the sort. Also light vehicle, you can carpet bomb a road if you see a good concentration of enemy units on it, especially in moving fast. So yeah, that's a good plane. Then I use the F-16C Fighting Falcon, which has cluster bomb. It's ideal to target good concentration of static enemy armored vehicle, artillery and tank. So if you know that there is something valuable somewhere, you might want to use these, and you'll be able to destroy them pretty much in one or two strike, depending the type of target. Here I'm using the Raven, which is a very reliable radar killer. So you just make them circle around and they'll be able to kill the enemy heavy radar presence. So enemy Bucks, Cub and Tunguska if they have the gun activated, Thors. And also if you just keep it out of the range, then well, on the border of the range of the enemy anti-air, they might target their missile at it, but as you're circling around, you'll be able to dodge it. So that might be a good unit, even when you don't shoot at the enemy. That can be a good unit to make the enemy waste their heavy anti-air missiles. And here, finally, I'm using the Strike Eagle. So this is a very good bombers. It will be able to destroy pretty much everything on its way. It will drop a good line of very heavy explosive 1,000-pound bombs, and that will kill or damage extremely the enemy. And this is really fast. It can go in and go out very quickly. So this is a reliable bomber. It's very expensive, so you might not want to risk it all the time, but in some case, if you're confident that you have the air power and the air superiority and that there's not too many anti-air down there, this can be a very good unit to use against enemy concentration of troops, and you can clear a town with this as well. So this is the deck I'll be using, and now I will go demonstrate to you how that works. Okay, so this is the replay where I'll show you how I'm using the armor deck. And in this case, this was a round where I decided to go kinda light in the beginning. So as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm actually deploying some command vehicle a little all over the place. The cheap one, which are basic command vehicle essentially. Now my objective by doing so is to allow my allies to use more military units, and also that ensure that I will take care of those zonas so that no beginner will forget to put their command vehicle there. Also, up to a certain point, what is interesting about doing that is that first of all, that gives you a kind of opportunity to wait to see what will happen. Because with the armor deck you have potentially some very expensive unit to use, and you want them to use them where they will be needed. So what I'm doing early on in this battle is simply let my allies spot the enemy and engage the enemy, and this allows me to know where I should probably go. And also there's the advantage that if I spawn from there, I won't have to bring as much fuel as supplies. So waiting to deploy your stuff until you have controls of other spawn area can be a good idea, especially when you have a vehicle-based deck. So you can see here in the center, the pack brought some so-called, so good anti-chopper stuff. And my allies landed their troops there. Here there was this guy bringing some infantry, but my command vehicle came a little faster. When you go somewhere, it's best to use the most direct way to reach a destination. And just get the capacity to spawn stuff here. I'm already gaining advantage of it, so I'm calling in Chaparral to deal with the enemy choppers, deploying them in the forests first. Also bringing some cheap M60A1 Rise pattern, which I use in group of 2 in this case, because one of them might not be enough and 2 will be able to deal with incoming enemy infantry potentially. Also on the side here I see that there's Mi-24. I'm bringing some Privad to suppress enemy chopper that might try to come across that hill, but this is my only involvement in this part. I just know that in this context, if we want to keep the left flank secure, we need to just give the right amount of anti-air to prevent chopper rush. So here we're receiving artillery fire, which is something omnipresent in this game. It's like because contrary to Airland battle, artillery does hurt stuff now, so they can really do a lot of damage, and actually my ally is losing a few units from that. Well, here I notice rather quickly that this zone has not been captured yet, and that tells me that this zone is likely not particularly well covered. And I see that my chaparral are being bombarded. I decide to move them forward, and I also order my rice pattern to move forward. I split them into smaller group because sometimes you never know what can happen. And I'm also calling in riflemen to occupy those buildings there, because if the enemy occupy those buildings, they can hop from one building to the other and make their way here. Now, I don't know how I did spot the vehicle there, but I did, so I knew now that there was a risk of having some resistance, but since they did not capture the zone, my impression was that it will be likely infantry or that kind of stuff. So I was fairly confident that my rice pattern will be able to deal with that, or at least scout the area. It was rather fortunate that my team was fighting well in the center, because if they had trouble there, I would not have been able to push here. So you can see now my rice pattern dealing with light troop transport, and since they have a lot of ammo, they're able to do so effectively. Well, here my chaparral, you can see the very long range it has, so I did kill a Sokol over there. And here my rice pattern are killing transport and infantry alike, while my infantry is coming in, my riflemen's. Now in this case I was using the M113A3, which has good armor. Well, good armor, it's 2 front armor, which can sometimes save them. Not that often, but still, it's better than nothing. And now you can see how they die quickly to the enemy AT rounds. But the fortunate thing is that, first of all, these were basic infantry, or some unit which are mostly good against tank and air. So FGB 40, they have anti-air and anti-ground stuff. So my riflemen were pretty adequate to deal with that, and they were not numerous here. Now the issue I had here were the chopper that rushed at me, but my chaparral were able to deal with that up to a certain point. It's just that there was too many choppers here, so ultimately my chaparral did die, which I was very sad about. But my main issue with those chaparral and those choppers is that they were too close. If my chaparral had been further away, they probably would have been able to deal with these effectively. So I risked them too much there. Now you can see another Mi-35P, which is suppressing my troops. Fortunately, they were targeting my my APCs here. While here with my rifleman, I moved around and killed the command infantry which was running away. And ultimately, I did secure the zone. Of course, the enemy did answer with a lot of artillery, as you can see from the craters. And now the chopper were really the danger in my case, because I did not have any anti-air here. And also this is why I'm using rice pattern at the beginning, because you never know what kind of opposition you'll face, and rice pattern only costs 40, so you can afford to lose them in destruction. and it's a reliable unit to test the enemy defense. And also, once you know what kind of a position you're facing, you'll be able to bring the adequate weaponry. And if I had bring my M1A2 Abrams, I will have likely have attracted a lot of airstrike and choppers too early in the battle. Now, fortunately, my ally had some proper choppers here, those Tigers. Although this wasn't the air-to-air version. And the enemy also did answer our attack with a lot of inexpensive T-34. And he did bombard these infantry really badly. But the chaparral here have such a long range that it was really useful to have them there, because it will prevent the enemy ultimately to bring any reinforcements toward me. Especially choppers. Because when you play with tanks, choppers are definitely your greatest enemy. Some Sokol are attacking our Tiger head. Also, the M60A1, these Rice pattern, they're really practical because of the amount of ammo they have. So here I brought a few more, but probably miscalculated the risk here. The enemy was able to shoot some missile at me. These guys here, T-55 M2B, which were destroyed by choppers. But they are still a really good match for T-60A1. The thing is that, as you can see, the zone is under enemy control. They had some infantry in that forest here, as well as some anti-air apparently. Also had a few BMP-3. And also had a lot of artillery focusing on us, which was definitely an issue. Here I just kept my M60 out of range of the missiles, because if I exposed it too much, it will receive fire. Also, I had some artillery here, which I'm using to suppress the forest. That position right here. And now, since I'm under artillery fire, I know that keeping my infantry right there will be useless. Here my artillery actually killed the enemy command vehicle, doing some friendly fire on the way. But since I knew that the enemy will simply bombard those buildings a lot, I moved my riflemen toward them. And I clearly saw that there was a large amount of artillery over here. Look at this. You can guess just from all the flash. So my goal there was to get a visual on it. Here my Rice pattern were deployed to suppress enemy reinforcements over here. Sadly I did not see that many, so I did not kill much there. Well, here my ally was really aggressive in fighting for that small forest part. And the enemy were really enthusiastic about sending a lot of infantry to die over here. Since that was destruction, it wasn't particularly useful to their cause, because he only lost stuff. He never managed to build up his force to capture this area. And when you look at it, I did not have that many troops. I kind of kept a low profile there. You can see that I did bring in my Abrams M1A2, but I did not bring them into the fight yet. And now, with all the artillery coming in, I got tired and called in the Fighting Falcon with cluster bomb. So I gave them two different positions to cluster bomb strike over there, which was filled with artillery. And I knew that I will likely lose 1 or 2 Falcon. And there we go. Bombardment. And you can see all the kills I just did there. Because this guy, he did not spread out his artillery. So as a result of this, I did hurt them quite a bit. I think I did lose 1 Falcon. But the benefit from killing all this was great, both in terms of score and in terms of finally not receiving any more artillery from there. Now what was interesting here is you see how my chaparral position here is just intercepting any enemy choppers flying around, as well as planes. Not sure if they kill well. No, they did not. Well, here with my rifleman, I just went over there and scouted. I think when I killed those artillery, the guy probably left. He just gave up. Which is sadly one aspect of many new players of this game. They play artillery, and once their artillery is gone, they just leave. You can see how the enemy actually brought some infantry and they sneaked them in. And they did push further here, so my M60 targeted them. And you can see how spreading around your tank can actually be useful into suppressing anything which come your way. Here are some more reinforcements. I'm still keeping my M1A2 Abrams out of sight. Here sadly I did lose my chaparral, which was very unfortunate. And here I'm not sure if I actually did kill a buck. I think they did remove the buck too quickly, so I did not manage to do so. But my allies were able to bombard the FOBs. This guy right here, he did waste a lot of APCs. That gave me a lot of points. While here my allies over here was probably using coalition deck or something, a mixed NATO or... Yeah, okay. That's probably a mix Commonwealth deck. Supported by a French deck here. Now these guys were really aggressive, so they really went for it to secure that forest over here. In my case, my chaparral was shooting that chopper over there. You can see how it's doing an aerial ballet. And my chaparral finally managed to reload his weapons and target that thing. Okay, so here I finally decided to move my Abrams forward. But there was that town which was cutting my line of sight. At the same time, I did not necessarily want to move any more further ahead, because there was potentially enemy tank or vehicle in that forest, which could have been very dangerous for my Abrams. So I kind of let the allies waste their stuff there instead of myself. Also, there was those SU patrolling and potential air-to-ground units. The Abrams are really a great prize for the enemy when they see them, so that's why I'm playing really carefully with them. And the Abrams also, they're mostly good for having a very open... well, they're good in an open space. So here an SU got killed by my chaparral. So you want to deploy them where you have a big visual view on everything. And also you want to deploy them where you know that they cannot be surprised by enemy air attack as well as enemy chopper attack, like this Mi-28. If I had moved my Abrams forward, this Mi-28 would have been very happy at targeting them, and we did not have any anti-air. Here I brought some Hawk Pip, which are actually not in the deck that I'm presenting. I think here they actually killed an Mi-28, but I think that's everything they killed. We'll have to verify that later. I think it's better to bring Chaparral overall because they will be able to kill much more targets that are closer. The Hawks have a very long range, but the result of their long range is that they end up missing the planes a lot, especially with the ECM. The enemy ACM, of course. And they are usually too slow missiles, so I think it's better to use Chaparral. Now this guy right here, he really was determined to capture that position, and the fact that I did not necessarily capture it back kinda probably gave him the hope of capturing it back. Here I brought some Super M60, 2 of them, as a complement to my M1A2 Abrams. Also did bring a few riflemen over here to be able to scout for me. So the Super M60, it has good armor, so it's a proper reliable tank to scout ahead and to take the punishment, so you might have a chance to get back. Well, here I finally decided to secure this zone for good. So I didn't move my tank forward and there wasn't much resistance. So while here I'm using my APCs as recon and my Super X M60 also. Now you can see the Mi-28 response to this. Here my Abrams just killed probably T-62 maybe. That looked like a T-72 actually. So the thing right now is that I did not really have any good anti-air. The Mi-28 was really dangerous for me, so I quickly pulled back down the hill my Abrams, and you can actually see that this one received some damage. One more hit and I would have lost this one. So that just illustrates to you how you need to be careful with those tanks. Here the M60 is killing those T-62 over here. So you can see they have a good range here. Yeah, this is pretty far. But at that point, what I was waiting for was... what was I waiting for, actually? Oh yeah, Chaparral that I moved here. So this Chaparral ended up killing a recon chopper. And with that Chaparral, I do have a good angle to suppress enemy choppers from here. And with those rise pattern, any enemy reinforcements that might use that road will be intercepted. While here in Whiskey, I think our artillery ended up killing the artillery, the enemy CP and everything. You can see the Chaparral shooting that Mi-28, which is now doing the dance. There we go. He's down from the Chaparral, pretty far, as you can see. That's what Chaparral are good for. Now I can move my Abrams forward again. Fortunately, my ally were really motivated in terms of scouting with their light units. And my Abrams here, as soon as they went up the hill, they actually did kill 2 probably light tank over there. I'm moving my riflemen forward to scout, and my Super M60 are shooting the infantry here. I'm pulling back my Abrams because one of them is still damaged. So as you can see here, I'm calling in some cargo to fix them up. Well, here my ally were really aggressive over there. We're fighting a flamethrower tank. Or 2 of them, actually. While here I'm moving my chaparral forward to provide a good protection against any enemy chopper that might show up. And here I'm deploying my Hawk into a spread out formation. I did anticipate on the fact that they will likely fire a lot of ammo. And this position here actually gave the Hawk a pretty good angle on everything that will come by, but the issue is that the Hawk missile is just too slow. It never reached target and has a tendency to miss. That's why I end up replacing it by chaparral in the deck I'm presenting to you. Well, here with my Abrams I'm scouting around. Well, not really scouting around, but clearing out whatever shows up. And you can notice perhaps how quickly those Abrams are dealing with everything they see. Oh, interesting here. They brought the command vehicle and my riflemen were there to see. I never saw that. So some more enemies are getting killed here. Now the enemy is bringing some T-72B1. That's a very good tank. Also have those chopper, which my chaparral gladly intercept. It just killed it. Oops, wrong button. Mi-28, so you can really see how it's important to keep your chaparral nearby here. Because Mi-28 could kill an entire tank army. They are that strong. So keeping your chaparral nearby is crucial there. And this one was out of ammo, so I brought another one here. Well, here my Abrams are killing the enemy BTR over there. Moving my Super M60 to the side here to have a good angle on the valley, but sadly they are intercepted by those T-62A and something else, which I'm not sure what that was. Probably... oh, it's BTR-90, which actually has a missile. It's a very good vehicle or troop transport, I'm not sure. So here you can see pulling back my M1A2 Abrams, because I just lost my reliable distraction tank, which were the Super M60. And also when you... the Abrams, you never put them in front. You put them to follow and support your troops, because they are way too valuable to be exposed. So you just play carefully, and if you're careful with them, they will likely last the entire round. I brought in more riflemen, and you can see how I actually brought in more here. The objective being to capture that building position here to have a good visual on everything over there. Also brought in some more here. As you can see, I'm calling some Privad with Vulcan cannon. I'm moving my Abrams to the side there because I see that we have a visual on many tank over here. My objective is to use the hill to have a good sight on everything down there. Also, the Abrams are really good in movement. The stabilizer is very effective. Now that guy is bringing his T-72BI. B1 actually. And I'm aware of that. Now the Abrams did kill T-55 right here. As soon as they see something, they kill it. Going up the hill to have an angle on those T-72B1. And you can see 2 shots, 2 kills, 100 points each. And there you go. So these Abrams just took care of 4 T-72B1 like it was nothing. On top of that, they are continuously killing everything that shows up over there. But you should never keep your elite tank too long in the same place. Here I'm advancing with my riflemen, which are my eyes, literally. And you can see that there's a pretty impressive concentration of enemies. The Abrams are suppressing the enemy infantry, which are trying to get a visual up there. But now I did lose my riflemen, so as a result I'm pulling back, and the enemy planes which are coming in could be very dangerous for my M1A2 Abrams, so I'm pulling back. You can see my Privad shooting there. But this is really dangerous, and you can see that they did a big cluster bomb strike on the forest, which could have been a disaster for my tank. I just killed the plane here with my pivots while they were moving on top of that. My Abrams are suppressing still. And you can see that out of 50 rounds I only have 36 remaining. So you can see that the ammo is going away really quickly. The enemy is also bringing in those T-72B1, which are now dying at the end of, I'm not sure if that's my own tank or what. Yep, my M1A2 are killing them very quickly. Receiving artillery fire on my supplies there. You can see that the forest prevented me from killing those tanks, and it was a kind of an issue for me. So I had no choice but to move forward. And now I decided to move backward because, first of all, there was no infantry ahead of me, and secondly, you never know if the enemy will not do a counterattack. There was also many choppers over here, which could have been very dangerous for me. I was bombarding this area constantly with artillery, hoping that I will at least stun whatever shows up there. And actually I did kill a few things. Well, here I did lose a few pivots. And the enemy were randomly bombarding, but at that point I felt that there was too few enemies in that zone. So I just pulled back my Abrams. They had 39 rounds remaining. But it's just that there was a lot of enemy airstrike on the zone. Fortunately, this guy right here, with his presence, kinda took a lot of punishment because he was attracting all the enemy fire. So the result of this fight was, in my case, that I killed 4,936 enemies. I lost 2,230, which were probably, if we check that, mostly riflemen, a few planes, a lot of APCs, which I probably could have saved by simply pulling them back. And let's see what I did kill. So I did 26% of the job. And let's see. So Rice Pattern, it did kill a lot of APC and a few infantry. This is the one here, a lot of APCs. Here my Chaparral did kill 3 choppers. Here Rice Pattern, lots of, well, a few transport, 1 chopper actually. And infantry, Chaparral, a few choppers. Rice Pattern here, lots of APCs. That just illustrates to you how important it is to have a lot of ammo, because all those APCs can end up consuming a lot of your ammo. So Riflemen, they did kill a few infantry here. The Chaparral here did kill a lot of choppers and even an Su-27, Mi-28, Mi-36, Mi-28. So this Chaparral really did kill expensive unit. Artillery did kill FGB-40 and Tunguska. They killed also 1 command unit, but they did not kill that much, at least those 2 artillery piece. Rice Pattern here, more APCs. The Falcon did kill here 4 artillery piece. Chaparral, yeah, chopper here. Few troop transport here and recon infantry. The High-Hawk did kill 1 Mi-28. Now this is the Abrams here. That did kill a lot of stuff, as you can see, and that's why this unit is the whole focus of this deck that I'm presenting. So T-72M, that's a good tank. Well, it's let's say it's medium high, let's say, in terms of quality. Flamethrower tank, you roll, that's 1 point, like, or actually it's 5 points. Oh, it might be the supply you roll, so 10 points. T-72A, it's 40 points, let's say. BTR, that's troop transport. T-72B1, that's expensive. It's at least 100 points when you kill it. So kill 2 of them. FGB-40, that's infantry. T-34, very inexpensive. Another T-72B1, that's very expensive. Single shot them also. T-55AM 2B, that's T-55 with missiles, so it's not that expensive, but it can be dangerous. T-72A, infantry, APC. My second M1A2 Abrams killed the T-72M. What's interesting is that since I only have 2 of them, essentially what happened is they double shot the enemy, so usually they end up having the same kind of kills. But in this case, it's not the same, but for the expensive stuff, T-72B1, 2 of them, that's very expensive. Another one here. So these 2 tanks really did prove their worth, and it's all about being very careful about them in how you use them. Super M60 did kill a few T-62M1, which are rather expensive, not that much, but it's okay. Now let's see. Hawk did kill MiG-29M, MiG-27K. And here another Hawk did kill a MiG-29. Okay, so they did kill a few MiG-29, but I think when you compare this with everything that the Chaparrals, the different Chaparrals did kill, I think it's much better to use a Chaparral. And my Pivads did kill a few, 1 plane and 1 chopper. So I think the Chaparral here and the M1A2 Abrams, as well as the M60A1 Rice Pattern, did prove to be the best unit in this battle. So I hope you did enjoy this. I hope it illustrates to you well how to use each unit. I did not use all units, but I think this round was a pretty good illustration of how you can do well with this specific deck. So I'll see you on the next guide, hopefully.